Okay, so very quickly now, moving along. So Marx, and again, Marx, a huge figure. This is like, like a half a line, right? But in general, religion is a sign of weakness, and freedom, can only be achieved through the abolishment of religion. So this is very familiar to us as modern people. Again, we are usually, unaware of the degree to which our psychology is really influenced by Karl Marx, Friedrich Nietzsche, Sigmund Freud. These people, it's like they live on, it's like they have left such a sediment in our minds and consciousness.
Yeah, absolutely.
If we realize that, we can say, wait a minute, but I don't want that. I don't have to, Anyway, Nietzsche, 1844 to 1900, the quote unquote death of God, basically leads also to this notion of the death of human nature. If there's no God to provide stability to the world and meaning, then also human nature is kind of untethered from its source. And so we read in the Quran, وَلَا تَكُونُوا كَالَّذِينَ نَسُوا اللَّهَ فَأَنْسَاهُمْ أَنفُسَهُم. Do not be like those who forgot God, so he caused them to forget themselves. And this is, you see this in modern Western history. People turn their backs on God, and then they don't know who they are anymore.
Exactly. The irony is, Friedrich Nietzsche actually was very perceptive in many ways. He shared the Muslim critique of many aspects of Western and Christian life. The kind of the death wish, the denial of the sexuality. He understood all that extremely well, right. And he had actually many positive things to say about Islam as well. This is the irony, and yet he persisted in his atheism and sought refuge in a kind of Greek kind of virtue ethics in a way, heroism, but no, he was not all. A lot of what he said was actually very insightful, although he obviously had a fundamental problem at the heart of his worldview, though.
Absolutely. And again, 2 lines is not at all to give Nietzsche his due. I mean, because he's quite profound and prophetic in the sense that he really foresaw, what the West had done. And that's his whole, the marketplace, the guy going out right. So he was telling people, you European Christians or post-Christians in the late 19th century, you don't understand the implications of the Enlightenment, quote unquote, killing of God. Right. And you're just riding on the fumes of Christian morality and civility, but you don't understand the implications of what you've done. I do. Yes. Now, he didn't go back and say we should believe in God, but he foretold, that what this would lead to. So anyway, Sigmund Freud then comes along and he sees sex as absolutely foundational to human personhood and happiness. Freud is extremely important. I mean, his theories have been debunked for like decades and decades, but he lives on in so many aspects of our culture and our psyche. And so he's really the one who says, again, God is gone, right? He was an atheist. I mean, all of these, Marx, Nietzsche, Freud, these are all hardcore atheists, not Rousseau, but these other, they're all atheists, right? And this is not neutral. If you ask a Muslim, is your view of the world and the way you perceive things, and is it influenced by your belief in God? Well, of course, yeah. I mean, it's profoundly influenced. So how can someone be an atheist and that's not going to profoundly influence the way they look at the world? We cannot just take these thinkers as like neutral, right, and think that their atheism is not very germane to the ideas that they come up with and the way they perceive the world. So we have to be very careful of that. Anyway, so Freud makes sex absolutely foundational to human personhood and happiness. However, he realizes that it's a very powerful force and that civilization, the possibility of civilization requires it to be contained. But so he sees this fundamental struggle. So he wrote that word civilization and its discontents, and it's that sexual discontent. And he said even infants are sexual, right? So this is, again, so Freud is so we see through Rousseau and through the 19th century kind of increasing psychologization of the human person. And then with Freud, we get the sexualization of that inner psychology. So you are like very much your inner psychology, right? And now your sexuality is at the core of that inner psychology.
And then in America, you get people like Kinsey, the famous psychologist in the 50s and 60s, who continued Freud's work and also did actual empirical research on the sexual life of babies, which I won't go into, but he continued precisely this trajectory and had a huge influence, obviously, on the sexual revolution in the 1960s.
Absolutely. And so I didn't put him on here, but definitely Alfred Kinsey is very central to this. Nietzsche, Freud, and Oscar Wilde, they concur basically that moral notions are essentially a matter of taste. This is very important. It's also referred to as emotivism, and this is discussed at length by Alistair MacIntyre.
A British guy, a British philosopher who's living in North America. But his book, After Virtue, which I read, is absolutely extraordinary. If you want to understand a very profound, and in many ways, a very positive understanding of moral theory. At a fairly advanced level. He's he used to be a Marxist, actually, and became a Catholic through his study of Thomism. That's the philosophy of Thomas Aquinas, and hence the word virtue, which is. But he's a brilliant philosopher, Alasdair MacIntyre. Still very much with us, I think.
Absolutely, yeah. So, but this notion that, I was going to say, actually, Freud making sexuality the center of the personhood. We read in the Quran, أَرَأَيْتَ مَنِ اتَّخَذَ إِلَهَهُ هَوَاهُ. Have you seen him who takes his desire as his God? Yeah. And this is literally, subhanAllah, you see, like Nietzsche, okay, we forget God, so we don't know who we are anymore. Freud, we don't have God, so we take our desires as our God. And like this, literally what they're doing, like this is like a confirmation of what the Quran is saying.
Well, the Quran is an obvious thing to say, but the Quran is incredibly profound and insightful to all these things. Yeah,
exactly, right. And so this idea also that it's a matter of taste or emotivism, right, is similar.